If you like this video, click like. If you want to continue to follow our adventure, hit subscribe. Your support would be greatly appreciated.
Hello, Eyes on the Road subscribers and followers. When, what was it? Back in May, I think it was. Back in May. April, May. I think it was May. April. May. Doesn't matter. I did a video on downsizing. Downsizing our lives. So let me give you a little history here. When we decided to quit our jobs and live in a pop-up, we decided that we were going to go to Florida for 3 weeks for a trial run. And really trying to decide that this is, is this the lifestyle for us? And when we got back, we decided, yeah, this is what we wanted to do. Which means we had to get rid of a lot of stuff real quick. Now, we rented our house. It was 8 acres, and we had chickens and a garden, and it was really inexpensive. And boy, I tell you, to give you a little prequel of what this video is going to be about, it was very emotional for me to get rid of that house. I loved that house, and it was so inexpensive. I mean, ridiculously cheap. 8 acres with a house for $350 a month. Who ever gets a house like that? It was just dirt cheap. And it was beautiful property. I mean, it had an equal amount of wooded area and lawn area. I bet 4 acres of it was just grass. So anyway, when we got back, we decided that we were going to live in our pop-up. So we had to get rid of our stuff. And I can't express to you how emotional it was to get rid of our stuff. When we got back and we decided we were going to do this, I bet we spent 3 days not doing a thing, just hanging out in the house. I think we put up mental roadmap blocks that this, and so we had a deadline that we wanted to get everything done, and 3 days went, it was gone. And we piddle around and we'll put things in boxes, and we discuss what we were going to do with this and do with that. It was very difficult to decide what you were going to do with this thing, or this thing, or this thing, or it was ridiculous. I mean, everything seemed like it had to have a 20-minute conversation. Pictures were very difficult for me. What things we're going to keep? What things can we keep in the pop-up? And before you knew it, it seemed like we were putting everything in the pop-up. And honestly, we took some of my stuff to my mother's house. Not a lot, pictures. I did a little reloading that was a hobby, but I never really spent much time with it. So some of these things went to Mom's house. But I'm trying to give you the emotional effect of what it really felt like. It was everything we touched was a struggle on deciding what we were going to do. So here we are about a week into it, and the house basically hasn't been touched. We spent 2 or 3 days not doing anything. And then, the rest of the week, we're just picking things up. Okay, what are we going to do with this? Blah, 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 blah. And you just never, and so you put it back. And then you pick up the next item, and you go blah, 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 and you put it back. Finally, I decided that for my things that I was going to ask myself the question, when was the last time I used it? Now remember, we worked 60, 70 hours a week, so we really didn't get to use the things that we had. I had a whole shelf thing full of DVDs. A lot of DVDs I held on to for years. And I couldn't remember the last time I watched some of them. So I went through the whole shelf and I said, when was the last time I watched this? When was the last time I watched this? And if I couldn't tell you when the answer, when I had last used it, it got pitched. So once I decided that's what my criteria was going to be, when was the last time I actually used this? When was the last time I actually touched this? I had a silverware set that my ex-wife bought, and it was very expensive. She bought it off QVC, and it had everything. And for some reason, and it wasn't that I was attached to the silverware set, I was attached to the money that we spent on it. And so I just couldn't let go of it. I just couldn't let go. What, all this silverware, what am I going to do with it? And finally I said, you know what? It just sits there. It's not being used. I use, Carolyn and I, we use a fork and a knife and we do dishes. So the rest of it was just sitting there. And so I said, let's just get rid of it. Let's, take it to Goodwill or sell it or whatever we decided to do with it. It didn't matter. There was no way we could haul it around. What was the point in having it in the first place? We didn't use it. It was just clutter. So fast forward to today, and people ask me, do I miss my things? And and the answer is no. Now that we're 6 months into this, whatever it is, the answer is no. I don't miss any of it. Occasionally I think, wow, I threw all those movies away, or I took them to Goodwill, or whatever we did with them. Huh. Oh well. But no, I don't miss any of it. I absolutely don't miss any of it. I think the thing that I do miss, and it's just one thing, is a couple of my power tools, like a drill and a grinder. But even that, it's not that big of a deal. I can go to a hardware store and they'll rent you those tools, I found out. So once you get past actually downsizing your life and you're living it without it, you don't miss it. You just don't even think about it anymore. So when the question is asked, how do you feel about the downsizing? Well, yeah, I always answer the question, oh, it was terrible. I hated it. It was the worst thing. But today I could answer that question, and I should answer it, well, it doesn't make any difference. Remember, the rest of my life is going to be out here, as long as I can do it. And that's what I need to be thinking about, not that 2 weeks. I don't need to be thinking about that 2 weeks. Yeah, that was terrible. But for the last 6 months, I haven't thought about it, and everything's been great. Now, let's talk about the decluttering in itself. The decluttering frees you up. Remember, I talked about, a lot of times I've talked about this. My stress level was through the roof. I've told you several times, I don't think I would have lived much longer with all the stress I was under. And then Carolyn's anxiety. And one of those things that actually triggers both stress and anxiety is clutter. If we let too many things pile up in this camper, all of a sudden we're bouncing off the walls, stressed and anxious, depending on who you're talking to. We have this little thin shelf, right, or counter space around the sink area. And you can get in the habit of just sitting things there. Coffee cup, coffee pot, bottle of soap. And before you know it, you don't have any room. And so now you get all this stress, and it's only 3 or 4 items. Well, think about a house full of clutter. I told you about the silverware. It just sat there. It didn't do anything. It was just in the way. And even though you don't think about the stress that it is causing you, it is causing you stress. It's just something that is in the way that you constantly have to work around or move around or whatever. There were so many things in that house. The DVDs sat there in the way, collecting dust. And remember, I've told you, I have allergies. And so, dust, now I'm getting all this dust in my face. It was just in the way, causing stress, causing, allergies, whatever the case is. So, no, I don't miss the stuff anymore. I really don't miss this stuff. My life is a lot better without it. And I encourage you to think about the stuff in your house. And maybe you should ask the question, when's the last time I used this stuff? And again, I am not telling you to go throw everything away. But if you live a life of stress and anxiousness, or if you want to just move out here and you want to downsize, please use the criteria. When's the last time I used it? Does it really serve a purpose? And you're going to be surprised, if you really are honest with yourself, how many times you're going to say, no, I haven't used it in years. It doesn't serve any purpose. I just hang on to it. Kind of, And people talk about the sentimental things. What about the sentimental things? The pictures, the hard copy pictures, I would say was probably the hardest, but even now I don't think about it much. Because I can use the same criteria. When's the last time I looked at them? And with technology today, you can scan them. But that was the only thing that I think, and sometimes I wonder, do we stress ourselves because we worry about what other people might think? If I tell you that I'm going to throw away all these pictures, which I didn't, I took them to my mom's house. Oh my goodness, all those memories? Well, is the picture really a memory, or is the memory the memory? In my mind, I can talk about, I can go through this motion picture of the event. The picture is just that. It's just a picture. So anyway, if you decide that your life just has too much clutter in it, ask the question, really ask the question, when's the last time I used it? And is it really serving any purpose? So anyway, hope that answers the question, but more importantly, I hope that helps you in your stressful life or your anxious life. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.